Morning, good morning, good morning. Just want to sit back. This is Justice's Waiting Room, a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. Morning, Deb. And I am a socialist, and that just means I'm developing like the elevator speech for socialism. I try to think about marketability. So as I listen to war as well. When I think about socialism, I think about how can you not like this? Um, I don't know about you, but nothing makes me personally more uncomfortable than anti-LGBTQIA plus speech. A targeted attack on a small subsect of the population with the intent of harm. Okay, that shit, that shit fucking makes me wildly uncomfortable. So one of the things that I've learned in my studies of socialism is that it is primarily an egalitarian social and economic theory. And a lot of people get caught up in what the fuck is egalitarian, and then they're just off socialism because they're like, I don't even understand what egalitarian is, and you have to be an egalitarian to be a socialist. Um, all that means, to dumb it down, is that you believe in equality for all. That's what egalitarian means. Equality for all. I don't think that's difficult. And I was actually thinking about, and I don't know if it's funny or not, but I'm a video gamer, and have you guys seen the TikToks where people are like, "What, um, what, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Um, when you become radicalized, like what radicalized you?" Mafia 3 radicalized the fuck out of me. For the record, Mafia is a series of video games in which you play as characters that I resonate with personally. People that generally coming home from the military that have seen uh, traveled a little bit and have kind of maneuvered through the world a little. And in my opinion, Mafia 3 in the deep south, super fucking racist 50s video game, written in the modern era. So there's a lot of hard R. It's very violent. And play as a white cop trying to rescue your black friend who's a veteran, like Army Special Forces veteran. You play as him, and then you play as his best friend. And it radicalized the fuck out of me. Um, because one of the things that I keep coming back to, there's a reason that we start the show with war, is because it's the problem that you keep coming back to. Is it in Mafia 3, there's an order of escalation in violence, and it leaves me shaking my head. Where like, where does it end? And I'd kind of use that illusion and ALLUSION, learn a new word today. I would allude to that and say like that's the path we're on. That's where we're headed. A lot of people would argue like we're there, and I'm like, nah. In the Mafia 3, they kidnapped people and burned them at the stake. So it is a little worse than we got it now. The difference is that I read an article today that says capitalism kills 210,000 people a day. Um, and how could you not be against the system that literally commits mass death every day? There's a reason that I'm trying to avoid having corroborators as I platform the Socialist Party. I want as few people to blame as possible. So there's a reason that I'm like, I'll tell y'all something. I haven't asked for like a council. I've said if anybody wants to be the treasurer before I go to my best friend who literally works in finance and it would love to treasure a fucking political party, and would love to get politically involved. I haven't gone to them yet because he's a fucking new parent, and I actually care about the people that I'm around. Okay, I don't want to put that voodoo on them. Okay, um, to use the language used in Mafia 3, voodoo and shit. What the fuck, Jared? So I wanted to come out this morning, before I even look at the news, what fuck shit happened in the last 24 hours. I've started to get some messages that I wanted to talk to you all about. I'm starting to get those messages, and this is how I know I was doing the right thing and we're on the right path, and how the American Socialist Party is going to take off and it's going to be wildly fucking popular. And remember what I told you, there's less than 600 seats of government in the United States. Hey, good morning. Okay? There's less than 600 seats of government in the United States. It takes no time to organize, run for office, have a fucking game plan every goddamn day of waking up and causing organized destruction. This is our seizing of the means of production. Is building the socialist political party. I didn't get a haircut. I'm hot today. It's started to get hot outside, y'all. It was 58 degrees the other day. You know what I mean? Like it's getting hot sooner. Winter's getting shorter. I live in Indiana. Okay, so I trimmed my beard and took a shower and shit. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I cut, but my goddamn dogs, I'm telling you, there's a reason I don't shave my neck. It's not because I'm a neck beard. It's because I have pit bulls and they will scratch at my neck, especially if I shave my neck. Oh my God. It's the worst. Like I've had open wounds on my neck from my fucking dogs. So I just get lazy and they will lick it instead. They lick your neck instead of try to paw at it. But yeah, when I shave my neck clean, I'm on like a 24, 48-hour window. And I get it. You know, my wife's the same way. I'm just kidding. So yeah, I want to point out I'm starting to get messages from people that are like they voted for Donald Trump, but you know, a bridge too far, right? And of course, I think a lot of people would be like, now, but but I tend to give people grace, that come to their senses and say, you know, I voted for Donald Trump, but none of this is. I thought he was bluffing. I thought Project 2025 was a ruse. And I'm like, it's a goddamn book. It's got his name in it like 200 plus times. Like, what do you mean you thought it was a ruse? And you have to talk people and just tell them like, no, he's really got like a third of it down. Like he's hammering away. And they say, you know, well, I want to speak back, but like you know, their problem, you know, a lot of Republicans say the reason I'm not a Democrat is because they don't do shit. And you know what else I heard recently? I heard AOC, who I fucking love, come out and say the Democratic Party doesn't have a platform and that they need a new platform. So I'm receiving all of this the way it's coming to me. It's like the fucking Matrix, right? To get all fucking nerdy on you, right? Where people are coming to me and they're saying I watch a lot of your content and I notice that you don't attack Trumpers. Like none of your content is aimed at people that voted for Donald Trump. And I said, actually, I practice abstinence when when it comes to Trumpers. I don't fuck with you at all. So if I see you out in the wild, I just block you. You're too far gone. I'm not gonna give you. See, all right, let me explain this. So I'm all over the place because I'm running hot today. There's a reason I'm in a t-shirt and a baseball hat because I'm burning up. Okay. the same people that said it wasn't going to be that bad are realizing like it's that bad or worse. And again, I've made content and I've said the people that voted for him are most likely to be directly affected by his policy. And so it's just hilarious that the leopards that eat faces party eats leopard first. Um, and it has caught people's attention where they've said, you don't really give a fuck about Democrat or Republican. And I've said, I see them as two sides of a shitty coin. One of them is horrible and will do horrible shit, and the other one will just stand there and point out that the other one is or is willing to do horrible shit without actually doing anything about it. And I sit and I think about, well, what would you do with unmitigated power like Donald Trump has? And I sat and I thought about it, and we're going to talk about it today. I want to talk about this now. Okay, we'll talk about the news in a minute. So I thought about, what would you do if you're president? What would you do? In order. So, first of all, get elected. That's the first thing. So before you have your little fantasy out, get elected. It's exhausting. Pass. Then get into office. I think on day one, what's most important is I want any past investigations into U.S. elections to correct the record, bar none. There. Any investigations into past elections, I want all of that information public. From now on, I want all election information public, with the exception of like who voted for whom. That's not our business. That's how private your vote is. The public doesn't need to know who you voted for. That's not how that works. That's that your right to vote like contains the vote. But how it's counted, tabulated, right? Like we've established. I've spoke 100% of from the day of the election. We have to change how we conduct elections. I think that it is a worthy and noble cause as soon as there's a change in command to say we have to have an independent media. Immediately. We no longer want a biased fourth wall. We want we want to change the world and make a positive change to the world, and it's going to take the media to do that. And if the media is not willing to play, like it's at our expense, and that's an act of violence because this continued mode of hypercapitalism costs 250,000 people a day. And see, one of the things that I've learned in my life because I've been to so many funerals is that when a person dies, it doesn't cost one person. Just so you know, it costs like three people, man. Like when people pass, especially unexpectedly, like your the big earner in your family or the rich people in your family, when those people die and their assets have to be redistributed and they have a fucking estate and shit like that. Okay? All those people voted for this. So when you think about, I always try to think about and use pop culture as great references for the part of the story we're in. Here's where we are. You know how Herschel in The Walking Dead had that farm like miles out of Atlanta? Or was that miles out of the CDC? Fuck, I always get fucked around. Anyway, Herschel had a farm like way away from the city where he was safe and ultimately housing a fucking zombie. Okay? A Nazi. And it's like Herschel still has a farm in the city. Then the zombie apocalypse has started and it's their fault. So I just want to make it like an allegory so you can see where we are now is that people that never thought in a million years that political policy would affect them directly are now down the street from next door to have taken in and are caring for somebody that gets SNAP Medicaid, Social Security, SSDI, SSI, unemployment. And you know what? I did some fucking math today, and here's why I'm hot. So nobody asked, but here's why I'm hot today. You know what? I did a little math today, and I did have some conversations the last few days, but without giving away those people's information, I can speak on. So in some states, you can only make $1,200 or less and be on Medicaid, which is criminally fucking low. But if you're on unemployment, that's $440 a week. So you make too much money to be on Medicaid, too much money to get SNAP. People call it double fucking dipping. By the way, I just wanted to I just want to point this out. The average rent is higher than what you would get on unemployment. The average rent's higher than what the average Social Security payment is. The average rent is higher than a combined household on unemployment. When you factor in other costs that have to be paid to live. When you factor like, do you have a car? Yes. So we won't even count whether you have a loan on that. How much do you spend in gas a month? That's the conversation I have with people every day. How much are you spending on gas? How much do you spend on groceries and food? Do you eat out a lot? How much does it cost? Right? I have those conversations with people all day, every day. And I'm telling you, when you consider the costs to live, gas, food, and then I call it utility. So that's water, electricity, gas. If you're not just coming out with, okay, Jared, that's $1,000 easy a month before you consider rent or the cost of a car. And then I just told you 440 a week is what you get on unemployment, which is too much to be on Medicaid, too much to get food stamps. And again, people are going to be like, but Jared, unemployment is only a temporary solution. Unemployment's the closest that you get to socialism. An amount of money from the gov every Friday. And a lot of people talk about fraud. And as someone that's been on unemployment like a couple times, it's kind of hard to you got to actually kind of work for that. It's not like a handout. You got to like go to meetings and shit. You got to like beef up your resume. You got to be going and looking for a job. Like being on unemployment is a job. It felt like it was a job. And being on that keeps you out of socialist healthcare, Medicaid. For the record, understand this. Think about this. If you ask right now, do you think Medicaid is a vital program? 90+% of people are like, yeah, hell yeah, it's a vital fucking program. What if I told you that is socialism? That Medicaid healthcare is socialist. It has no cost, no copay, no max out of pocket, no cost for drugs. It'll even pay thousands of dollars a year for dental, vision, and hearing and give you money for rent and bills, like hundreds of dollars a month. And that's socialist healthcare that you are pawing for. You want that. 91% of people are like, give me. I want that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's why I'm a proponent of universal healthcare. I'm a disabled veteran. Until Donald Trump fucks that up, I get free healthcare. I have not my entire adult life since I was 24, 23. How old, Jared? I enlisted when I was 22. Sorry. I'm 41. So for going on 20 fucking years, I've not had to pay for healthcare. I just enrolled in the program at work. I'm 41 years old. I have $200,000 in debt. 150 is a mortgage and 50 is student loans. And I had $6,000 in debt total at 41. Pat yourself on the back, right? Like, I'm happy as a fucking clam. My bills are fucking paid. My wife and I both work full time. I am fortunate to be a disabled veteran and not have to have paid hundreds of dollars a month. So I was on active duty for 27 months. I got medically separated against my will because my battle buddy was murdered while I was on active duty and they covered it up. His name was R.J. Rady. May he rest peacefully. Also, my right shoulder's fucked up and I have PTSD real bad, but 6 months from his death, what does his death have to do with me? I wasn't there when he died. I was in another state. But serve our country, I'm an Eagle Scout. I was in the Marine Corps. I'm service is kind of loaded. I worked armed and unarmed security at music venues for over a decade. I call that service. No one ever died on my watch, except for RJ Rady. And like I said, they gave him a posthumous other than honorable, and they said that he killed himself. And over a decade, I beat myself up pretty bad, blaming myself for not being there, like I could have prevented it. And then I found out that he was murdered. And so now every day I wake up in this fresh new hell. And the reason that I know that he was murdered is because his family and his wife went to the Wounded Warrior Project and tried to get his status as a veteran uh, changed to an honorable discharge per the new information. And they struck out. Well, his parents are old and gonna die, and his wife is remarried and has kids. So who's gonna carry his cross? Who's gonna who's gonna do something so good that they have to the US comes to you and says like maybe we could talk about RJ when the socialist American Socialist Party completely takes over American politics and permanently reshapes the US. And you know how you do that? You make Medicaid a permanent program that the federal government will always invest in. You make SNAP have a higher minimum in my eyes. Uh, you don't change qualifications. You just make the minimum $100 a month. You make the all the healthcare, all the dual special needs plans available to people that have Medicare and Medicaid. You make those publicly available. Oh, keep in mind, the alternative is the U.S. healthcare system's collapsing. So I don't care if it makes it. I'm just offering a path forward. That seems to work in 33 of 34 other developed countries. We could just have universal health care. If we legalize cannabis and turn cannabis into a cash crop, like we have corn in the Midwest anyway, where it's destroyed our soil because corn is fucking horrible for the soil. You could just grow cannabis instead. The climate's drying out. At least it has been, as far as I know, right? You got severe fire risk in the west and drought in the west. And here, shit, I feel like we went months without rain. So you federally legalize marijuana, obviously take it off the Schedule One drug list. A lot of people are going to be upset. They're like, well, there'll be a weed store in every corner, and it's like, yep. And I hope there's a line out of the fucking door because the taxes collected off of the sale of dope will pay for fucking socialism. And nothing has to change. You could keep having your dumbass society that you live in too. But you could listen to me and you could take policy forward that restricts rent. That restricts your landlord's ability to double or more your rent. That nominal raises in rent are acceptable. $10 to $30 a year. That's they got to be able to do that. Anything over $50, they got to ask you to sit down, sign a new contract, and offer to rehome you. You know what I mean? Yeah. My wife and I have been out of state. The neighboring states all have legal weed now, and some of these places are like the nicest place I've ever been because they have new floors, right? New ceilings, new fixtures, new windows, right? On a new construct. And what makes me sad about the whole industry is everywhere I go, they're like cash only. And you ask them like, why are you cash only in a cashless society? And they say, because the bank will only let us deposit cash. So for the record, the dismantling of the FDIC, it's paving the way for either the oligarchy, which we have in power now, that's destroying social safety nets first. Keep this in mind. They went for poor people first. They went for food stamps and Medicaid first. And I'm talking about these three South African men, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, Elon Musk. They must go. Why? Because they think that Social Security is a government benefit and that it's not a retirement system that you pay for. They don't understand that's our money. That's not government money. It's our money. The government is holding it for us. It's part of a system we built. It's not up for grabs. It's not a government expense that we can discuss. It's not on the table. Okay? And you and I know that. You and I know that. Donald Trump doesn't know or think that. He thinks his brain is mush, I think. He thinks whatever Elon thinks. And Elon Musk doesn't know. He has the air of someone who thinks they're intelligent. As someone that is actually an intelligent human being, at least I try to be, Elon Musk does not come off as an intelligent person. He's not someone that I would have a conversation with and not have this look on my face. Like, do you think you're getting one over on me? You used 4 words that you learned today. The fuck are you on? What do you just flip to random spots of the dictionary? See how can I fucking confuse someone today? Is that part of the air of feeling intelligent? Is that you have an insane vocabulary? And for the record, you could point to any number of them fucking rich boys, and that's what they do. I seen Zuckerberg do that. I seen fucking Peter Thiel do that. I haven't seen much out of David Sachs, but I haven't exactly fucking sought him out. Same thing with Elon Phelon. For the record, Elon Pelon. By the way, I've come across that account on TikTok, and it's a gaff. It's a big laugh. By the way, if anyone has any, itchy trigger finger, uh, the Tate brothers have left Romania and are on a flight for the U.S. 6 hours ago. That might be the most important story of the day right there. If any Luigi Mangione fans uh, wanted to kill Smeagol, he's about to land. Except I would let you know he's a kickboxer, and he's probably scared to death. So he's probably going from the tarmac to a limo to Where do you think he goes? Mar-a-Lago? Probably bound for Mar-a-Lago. Oh, and people have asked, like, why? Think about this. I was thinking about this the other day. It made me so mad. I was at work. I was thinking about if the government gave you $500 every Friday, got you free health care, reduced or eliminated your rent, interest, right? And used your tax money only to make you better. What would you need the fucking government for otherwise? It's certainly not to fight against your civil rights, right? And that's probably why we don't have it. Is because imagine what if you had legal cannabis too? Federally legal cannabis. You know what I mean? Where like trying to grow your brand wasn't transporting an illegal drug across state lines, right? What if the problem is they told us our whole lives to start businesses, and I live in super conservative Indiana, where they only recently decriminalized cannabis. I can imagine how much less hate crime would happen in Indiana if there was just legal cannabis. You just go get a joint, Terry. Take your hood off. What the fuck? But yeah, I wanted to talk for a while today about how Trumpers are starting to turn the corner on them. It's great. The people are leaving the Leopards Eat Faces convention, and they're like, hey, that shit sucks. But being a Democrat sucks. And I agree. I agree. I agree. And somebody told me the other day they never called themselves a Democrat or a Republican because all the Republicans do is hate and tear shit up. That their words, not mine. And all the Democrats do is stand by and act in shock when they keep doing it. They're not actually like proposing policy that counters and putting, you know what I mean? They'll do shit like the Democrats made the Republicans vote on should we touch Medicaid or not or something like that. And every fucking Republican voted to touch Medicaid, to absolutely discuss its budget and to absolutely make potential cuts to that. So, as I've said, that 880 billion number for Medicaid, that's the whole budget. That's all of it. Okay. 20%, a 20% cut in SNAP benefits takes a percentage of SNAP recipients' benefits below $5. Hey, as someone, I'm only 40, none of this is affecting me. I don't have Medicaid, I don't have any of that shit. Hey, if they'll come for that shit, they'll come for veterans benefits. They'll come for your Social Security next. They've already talked about it. They had to be talked out of that. Literally, Republicans had record phone calls of people saying, "Don't cancel my fucking Social Security. Don't do that, or I won't donate." Right? So I wanted to point out that they're starting to turn away from him and look elsewhere. The Democratic Party, again, they got three super important elections coming up, and I'm not seeing those people's faces enough. I'm not hearing enough from them. If they're so important, if electing these three Democrats is so important, why aren't they on TV? Are they not TV ready? Are the people most fit for the job not fit for the job? That would be my question. So hey, I'm putting this out there before we're an official political party. If any of you out there have thought about running for political office, it's never too soon unless it's not legal, unless you're too young. Okay. Something to throw that out there. And as long as you're like capable of climbing the steps of City Hall or whatever, you could run for political office. And I don't mean to be like what is it like where I don't like disabled people. That wasn't what I meant. Like if you're in a fucking wheelchair, it's even easier, right? Right? 'Cause you just attach to the railing and fucking go. Yeah, I'm not trying to say like you could not be in a wheelchair and do it. Anyway, Elon Musk backed pro Russian candidate in Romania, Kalin Georgescu, has been arrested. So that's interesting. So that's interesting. So that's interesting. So the Tate brothers are on the way to the US from Romania. And then at the same time, Elon Musk backed pro Russian candidate in Romania, Kalin Georgescu, has been arrested. Huh. Huh. And again, see, me and AOC saying the same thing. Run for political office. It may not be cool or hip in some circles, but we legitimately do need a massive amount of people to run for public office. Flood the school boards, councils, county seats, state legislatures, Congress. Big changes at the top happen when the ground shifts at the bottom. Okay. Mhm. Again, I want to make sure that we stay cognizant of the situation and that Democrats are not the police or the Department of Justice, and all they can do is their job. And I want to make sure that you never hear me blaming the Democrats for not jailing their political opponents. I want to make sure that we look into a camera and say that. Because I feel like a lot of people have lost their motherfucking mind when they're talking about why the Democrats didn't do anything. How about because what did you want them to do? Exact revenge? Go on a murderous spree? Like what the fuck is wrong with you? I think that you have to keep your mouth shut and let this fucking executive order 13848 come and bite Donald Trump in the fucking ass after he's laid out all the horrible shit that he wants to do. Oh, I think the reason Donald Trump was attacking the FBI, CIA, fucking USAID was trying to figure out who's gonna out him. And he realized everyone's gonna out you. Nobody likes you. This Donald Trump is the least liked president in history. So think about it. What is a great political candidate? Here, I'll tell you. You have to be very almost clinically outspoken. Just like you think about who I am. I am like a goddamn heartbeat, outspoken, consistent, right? Consistent theme, consistent messaging. I'm never that I hate say never, never say never. I have been angry a couple times. I have shown you how I get when I'm angry. But on the whole, I have a good temperament, right? I'm not afraid of the camera, I'm not afraid to talk, right? You got to understand that like you got to get a clip in. You know, it's like being a fucking streamer playing Call of Duty. You know, what's going to get you some followers? That fucking 3 second clip of you fucking absolutely thrashing somebody, right? So I think that it doesn't take media training. It just, your brain has to be ready at all times to get walked up on when you're on your way to something or on your way from something and you get kind of put on the spot. You got to always keep them in the chamber ready to fucking go in case you do get approached and they ask you, what do you think about the threats to the cuts of Medicaid? And it's like, what's honestly disappointing about this line of decision making for Republicans is that this disproportionately affects their voter bloc. So something like 77%. I did the math. Almost 4 out of every 5 fucking Medicaid recipients voted for Donald Trump. So you asked me how I feel about that. That's super unfortunate that they're willing to sacrifice themselves at the altar of Donald Trump. It's just disappointing. And they'll turn on him. I'm not attacking them. If you're attacking Trump voters and you're still engaging with them, you miss the fucking point. The whole point since election day was to ignore Trumpers. You were supposed to ignore them. They were never going to stop bothering you, but eventually they're going to turn away from that altar that has all those bodies at the foot of it, and they're going to be looking for something else, a place that they can be welcomed. And understand, bigotry is at the core of what divides us. Ignorance, right? Mostly, but bigotry. Most people, for the record, that didn't vote for Kamala Harris, the majority didn't vote for her because she's a woman. They also didn't vote for her because she's a black woman. They also didn't vote for her because she's an Asian woman. All bigots. So you're bigots. So here's what I've also learned as an adult. And I know this is wild. And if you're a woman, only a woman can understand this. Men don't know what that is. I'm dead ass. If you ask a man, can you name 3 different forms of bigotry? They're going to draw a fucking blank. Racism, misogyny, right? Ageism. Okay. Somebody's too old to do that, right? You'll never hear me say you're too old to do anything. You personally might not be fit for the job, but you're never too old. Good to go. There's a reason I tell everyone get 8+ hours of sleep a night, drink water, eat right, exercise, right? Because those things generally don't have a high cost. You don't have to pay generally to do them, right? You could grow a garden, right? So the conversation about paying for your healthy food that you're eating, you become a vegetarian. Now you can grow your grocer. You can be your own grocery store, right? I'm just thinking out loud, right? Because that's the time frame we're in. We're in the time frame now. Businesses aren't increasingly bending the knee. Companies are sort of starting to stand up. Big corporations are starting to stand up. I noticed Costco, last I looked, was up like 16.4% in a short period. For standing up and holding on to DEI as an initiative. I just want everyone to know that as the founder, for example, of the American Socialist Party, not only do I think I wouldn't do business with someone that eliminated a DEI program from their company, but I might do business with someone that just renamed their program and tried to stay off the radar because the right is that stupid. And I suspect that on the whole, that's what a lot of companies did. Was they just said, okay, we're going to rename our DEI program so that it's not on their radar. That's savvy business move, but you could see how to the average person that still might not be a good enough reason. They still might not want to do business with you because you cowered in the face of fascism and authoritarianism. You didn't stick the double birds up and Superman punch somebody. You fucking ran away and act like a bitch. So I'm saying all that to say, let's get into what's going on. Yeah, here. I didn't even get to it. Things I already said without saying them. Here's a news story where Donald Trump is the most unpopular president in more than 70 years. Oh, someone died of measles and RFK downplayed that. Just no biggie. Oh, in Ohio, check this out. Oh, the Department of Education is getting ready to take on this administration. Remember that I told you this. When somebody says they should just give it to the states, that's that's what the Nazis' argument was. I'm just throwing that out there. So when anyone says like, why wouldn't you just let the states decide? Is that's a Nazi theory. Oh, and speaking of Nazi shit, I can never speak out on this. I can never say anything because nothing's gonna happen, and I just look like a fucking douchebag. But literally, so I learned a term. Something happened. It fucked up a whole group of people. Uh, so got a new job, right? Are y'all still there? Or did I literally say something piss everybody off? Oh, it says there's like 23 people in here, like normal show. Sorry. Y'all are in here. You gotta you gotta talk. I know you're just listening to me yap, but I got a job, right? And I just gotta talk about this shit. So I'm like the center of attention pretty much everywhere I go. So whether that's me doing that or it's just the way it is, like most people are stupid, they're not well spoken, they don't have anything to say. When they do open their mouths, they say some dumb shit, right? So my trainer didn't like me, and it is evident by his behavior. Like he was vibing with music playing in the background and like chit chatting with the group, and I could barely hear the music because I have tinnitus because I was on active duty in the Marine Corps Infantry, and he was in the Army for 8 years. He's a paratrooper, and I wanted to be like, "Hey, what song is that?" And he said, "Don't worry about it," in front of like the whole group of people. Now, if that was just like the only thing that happened, then you just move on with your life. Um, I said fuck after we got let out of work the first day. And he snapped at me in front of all those people, told me you can't curse and shit. And you were like, he just let us off of work. We're in a fucking Zoom call. Like, holy shit. Obviously, you could tell I got potty mouth. So I shut up. I shut the shit up. After he was an asshole to me, after he came down on me for cursing, I was just like, fuck, man. So at the very end of class, right before we got on the phones, I care about like morale and shit. And I said, let's fucking go. And everybody was like, yeah. And immediately he muted everybody, sent us to the phones, and came into my breakout room, like a Zoom meeting, like one on one, and like chastised me. Like I felt like I was on active duty again, where somebody came in and was like, "Do we have a problem?" And I was like, "Like you and I? No. What? What's the problem?" And he's like, "This is the third time." And immediately I was like, asshole, this isn't the third time. This is the second time that we've spoke about me cursing. So I cut him off and was because I knew what he was doing. I already knew what he was doing as soon as he did it. I'm smarter than I look. I said, this is only the second time you've had to say anything about me cursing. And they have like a point system that they go on. So him coming to me privately and personally is prior to me getting written up about the shit or it going on my record, right? And then he said, I see it as disrespectful when you curse. So among all the other horse shit that conversation consisted of me asking my trainer, my new boss at an employer, are we sure you are confronting me? I mean, I know why. I know why he confronted me. You know why he confronted me. Because he felt like the one time he was better than someone that was in the Marine Corps. The one time. So he, of course, has to dislike me. And hey, it ain't the first time somebody who's in the army treated me like shit that was in a position of power over me. Good to go. So he told me he saw it as a sign of disrespect. And I said, good to go. I'm gonna make sure they know. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure we don't curse. Okay. Long story short, uh, there was one more incident at the end of class. The last PowerPoint that we're going through, I have raised my hand and I said, I have a question about the general enrollment. Is this like a good time for that? And he said no, and then the next page was, that's the end. Goodbye. So in my fuck with me once, that's on me. Twice, it's on you. 3 times? So that's how that motherfucker treated me. And then to make matters worse, he used a Nazi policy to, let me explain. I'm not overstating this. On 2 separate occasions, keep in mind it's a group Zoom, like a Zoom meeting. Okay. So in a group Zoom meeting, my boss, we get there a few minutes before top of the hour, and we're all smoking and joking. And he comes in on the dot on the hour, and he's pissed, and he's steaming at the whole room, just absolutely crushing the vibes, absolutely killing morale, telling us one of you made a mistake, and because one of you made a mistake, I'm going to punish all of you. I'm muting all of you, and then I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms by yourselves. Because one person made a mistake on a phone call, they were dishonest. They colored outside the lines. They didn't read the script. One person made a mistake and everybody gets punished with isolation. And so that happened. And before I go into detail, I just want to explain what the result of the behaviors were. And that happened twice. The second time he did it was at the end of our time together in training. After he did that, he couldn't sleep that night. Other people in that training class couldn't sleep that night. He had people trembling, afraid they were going to lose their jobs, who left their careers to take a job here, only to find out you had to qualify to graduate. And then he's using what's called Sippenhaft, is a Nazi policy of collective punishment that held families responsible for the crimes of their relatives. The term is German for family liability punishment or collective punishment. Sippenhaft was based on the idea of blood guilt and the purity of the race. It was used against families of German citizens for crimes ranging from treason to desertion. Punishments included imprisonment, murder, loss of citizenship, loss of employment, pension, or educational opportunities. And Sippenhaft was a key part of Nazi ideology and a departure from modern concepts of justice. I'm going to read that little last part again. A departure from modern concepts of justice. And he did that shit twice. The second time he did it, it was so bad that he couldn't sleep that night, and multiple people in my graduating class out of training couldn't sleep. Now, I was in a Marine Corps infantry during a time of war. I've been hazed. I also was in a fraternity in college and have been hazed. So I kind of was just like, holy shit, you're a piece of shit. I was sweating through my fucking socks, right? But I didn't lose sleep because ultimately I didn't do the thing wrong. And I absolutely think that person should lose their fucking job in a heartbeat for not having a sense of history as a leader. Because if you have a sense of history, then you know, and especially if you paid attention to the way they teach leadership in the military, group collective punishment got removed when hazing got outlawed while I was on active duty, and that was more than 20 years ago. So I know he didn't learn that in the army. And I'm willing to bet you if you know someone that was in the army, you could ask them, what do they think about group punishment? Especially if they were in leadership. I would wonder, anybody above an E5, what are your thoughts on Sippenhaft? Um anyway, and like I said, I want to speak out. I want to shout it from the fucking rooftops and say his name and say my company and I want him to, but I just got here. I ain't trying to get fired. This is like the best job opportunity I've ever had. And people are like, "Oh, so you wouldn't sacrifice?" I'm not sacrificing my well-being just to teach someone a lesson. No, it's not. It's shitty. It's shitty that it happened to us, but we all know because we still talk. That whole team created a chat without that guy in it. Ooh, this is good. The Austrian government is forming. Yeah, it's fucked up. Super fucked up. I live in an at-will employment state, so I could just get fired for speaking out. The wrong person hears this, I could just get fired. And as I've been saying, get off of Meta tools. Stop using Facebook, Threads, IG, Messenger, WhatsApp, Twitter, Amazon. Here's an article in CNBC where Meta had to explain an error after a flood of graphic and violent content on their platform. Oh, I want to make sure I share this every day. Here's our little calendar that we're using. Okay. It shows tomorrow is the planned economic blackout. So if you can help it, don't spend any money. Okay. There's also a rally with our trans friends in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, March 1st. So if you happen to be in or around Washington, D.C., there is a Trans Unity D.C. rally. Okay. Um, you need to get a hold of Five Calls, which is an application you can put on your phone, start contacting your reps. Okay. On March 4th, I guess they're calling it the March for Liberty. I just say we March 4th on March 4th. And then I noticed there on March 6th, which was my brother's birthday, you need to check your subscriptions and cancel your subscriptions. Okay. on March 7th, which is the first Friday in March. So we're just going by the first week or so. There's a Stand Up for Science protests. Okay. You can get more info. Stand Up for Science zone.org, I think. And then, yeah, I think we'll just do a week at a time. Okay. Vance is doing it Sugarloaf and VT, Vermont. They were protesting there. No Amazon, no Nestle. Um, that's happening this month. Okay. Hit these motherfuckers in their wallets. It's the only thing that elicits emotion out of them. Oh, skiing. I was like, maybe what, Joanne? No, one of the reasons that I'm afraid of like taking on a collaborator and it be like someone other than me with founding of the American Socialist Party is that I'm afraid of two influences. So if anybody wonders, I want to be fully pro union and fully pro equality. And I think that if I take on a collaborator, they're going to be fine with most socialist policies, but where you're likely to have someone try to influence your support for unions or your support for the LGBTQ, that's where I'm afraid. There are a lot healthy percentage of men, especially, that think, oh, come on, what's some of the nonsense they say? Um, one of the things I've heard is there can't be that many of them, right? Like, what? I venture to say most people, if you leave your fucking hometown, you're gay. Like, that's how I feel about it. Like, I've been to college. I've worked in an office. Motherfuckers are gay, like at a high clip. It's it didn't affect me at all because I'm not gay. And I hung out with them. I went out of state with them. I went out of country with them. Mostly women and gay people, actually. Because dumb men don't make it. We called it failing forward. When some white dude that I have ever worked with, like, got into a management role or leadership role and he was a fucking turd, we called it failing forward, right? So I just want to point that out. It's the bigots that lose, right? You know, I worked in an office for 5 years, and one day one of our Spanish agents comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Jared, can you take me to go get my car?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a ride, man. What's up? Everything okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just need to go get my car." And I was like, "Okay." And we left work to go take him to his car. It had been fixed. He'd wrecked his car or something. And on the way to go get his car, he broke down crying, talking about all the awful shit that our call center director had done to him. Like, oh, he's a racist. And then when I went to work the next day, that person had went and told his Spanish speakers that he came to me and lamented to me that our call center director was super fucking racist to all of our Spanish speaking agents. And the next day, one of the girls came to me, one of the Spanish speaking agents that was a woman. And she said, "Can I talk to you?" Yeah. And we went outside and she told me about how she felt uncomfortable around our call center director. Her and her Latina sisters felt like they were being gazed at and otherwise kind of treated inappropriately. And she told me about a couple comments that this person had made. And I went and got my boss, who's in the army, and called HR. And I went and got his boss. And I told them what happened. And I looked them all dead in the fucking eye. You're going to let the person leading all of us be a bigot to our asset. You understand? If you work in like a call center environment and you have a team of people that speaks a foreign language, that's an asset. They're a big lift to your company. Not to mention, you shouldn't be fucking sexist, racist, right? You shouldn't be those things and be in leadership. Anyway, the call center director got fired, and he and I were friends, like on Facebook, not in real life. I don't fucking know him. Okay. And for years, he commented on my shit on Facebook. Again, as though we were friends. See, I can even have cut you off at the legs and still act as if. And then eventually he was a racist, and I called him out for it, and I said, I'm the reason that you got fired from fucking Defenders. Anyway, so I'm one of those people that you've met in your life. I've actually been a whistleblower. I reported fraud to my boss. I went to the media about it. I stood up for people that didn't look like me, and it resulted in the bad guys losing their fucking jobs. And I was still able publicly to maintain that relationship until they outed themselves as a fucking racist, and then I ended it and let them know. I just blocked them. I don't have nothing else to say. Here's shit that concerns me. Okay. Joanne, I would encourage you to talk to HR. Understand that HR exists to protect the company, and your boss being a racist is not in the interest of the company. Mhm. I would speak on him being Catholic, but I think that's an entirely different conversation. But yeah, so remember these terms today. Egalitarian just means pro equality. When you hear seizing the means of production, what this means to me is that I am a syndicalist socialist. Think syndicate. I play Path of Exile, so it's super fun. Think about a syndicate and think of that. A syndicate is like a union. And so a syndicalist is like a unionist. It's just not a word. Okay. Yeah. HR protects the company, not the management. Yep. So HR would fire a racist leader because it's a fucking terrible look for the business, especially if they're publicly racist. Unfortunately, being too political, I noticed, especially if you're a super hardcore right winger, there's not repercussions for that. And I always thought that was particularly gross because I'm not normally like an outwardly political person. Hey, Kat. Hey, Kat's our artist. I've been working with Kat on the logo for the American Socialist Party and collaborating. It's been awesome because I wanted to have a logo drawn by hand by a person, not someone. And Kat, I hope it makes $1 bazillion, and I gotta come to you one day and give you a lot of money. Good to go. I hope that'd be fucking rad. But that's not why. That's not what it was made for. I wanted to set it beside those other two logos, the logos for the Democratic and Republican Party, and give you a clear choice, like just on a aesthetic, just on what it looks like. And I thought that an artist could do that. I couldn't get AI to do it. AI could get us fucking close. They could put one star on the belly. Good to go. They couldn't make the star the eye and then have other stars on the snake. It just like wouldn't make it happen. So I was like, dude, I don't want AI to do this shit anyway, but here's a jumping point. I want this shit drawn by hand, a hand drawn logo that we're going to digitize and simplify further, but the concept is not AI based. I didn't just plug the shit into AI. I worked with an artist. Like, I think we have 5 or 6 proofs, meaning, like, we will have in our backlog. Think about this. This is things you must fucking have. In my eyes, to have a grassroots socialist party, you have to have the founder, like, obsessed with initial graphical presentation. What is the first graphic that you see when you look us up? Oh, it's a digitized hand drawn logo that worked with an artist. Not like I just plugged the shit in the AI and said fuck it, let's go. Cuz that's what it looks like when you look at the Democratic and Republican logos. It looks, I don't know about y'all, that looks like AI to me. Somebody just slapped that shit together. For the record, I found the name of the artist. So an artist did draw those. Okay. He uses very simple shapes. It's outdated as fuck. And we need something that looks like it could take down a donkey and an elephant. Good to go. So what I'll do to be able to show you those logos is invite people to our Discord, even Kat. Join the Discord because I post all the artwork between me and the artist. Well, that the artist gives me, where I give the, and what I'll keep between us, Kat, is our conversations where we're talking about the little changes that we make to it. And I was kind of getting to play art director, project manager, right? It's awesome. Join the Discord. You'll get to see the progression of the logo being made. Again, I went to school for graphic design. I'm with a background in project management. I worked in special projects, right? You have to nail the aesthetic or people won't click on it. It has to pull you. And I think Snakes, for the record, pulls everybody. Like everybody's gonna click on that. What is that? American Socialist Party, ASP. Oh, what's an ASP? Oh, it comes from Latin aspis, which means the Egyptian cobra. So we chose a fucking cobra. Okay, what is Discord? Discord is permanent chat. Like a live chat room when I'm not live. That I'm posting articles in and having conversations in, and it's a tight community. I think there's like 25, there's like less than 25 of us. It's a tight group. Cat, you'd fit right in. Hell, half the people in here are in this, are in our Discord. Yeah. And Squint, I've seen probably 3 or 4 iterations of the logos since you've seen the last one, probably. Nah, probably 2. But I would encourage you to join the Justice's waiting room. We really only use general. Like we don't have like a bunch of rooms. We're not doing that shit. We just have the main chat. There's not really much to it. It's got a messenger built into it, so you could PM people, private message people. But I don't really use it for that. I just use it so that people, you know why why I'm on Discord? So like people realize like I'm an actual person. This is where I am all day. I'm not somewhere else. I'm not on some other Discord. I work. I'm in our Discord. I make the podcast. We talk about socialism and shit. Because more I'm alive, the more I'm like capitalism. It costs people. It's bad policy. Morning. You know, instead of banning books, I want more authors, right? Instead of holding science back, I want to encourage people to be scientists by eliminating the financial barrier to it, which is what mostly keeps people, you know. FBI says North Korea was responsible for $1.5 billion Bybit hack. I sometimes play games on Discord with my husband and kids, but he has to bring me in because I'm tech retarded. Oh, you're using the chat feature. Yeah, so again, Discord is awesome. It has way more features than I will ever talk about. Why? Because I don't want to overwhelm potential members of our Discord, people that are hearing what I'm saying and may at some point be like, "All right, I want to run for this office in my area. What do I do, Jared?" Right? And I'm going to go get a political science degree and I'm going to learn, right? But I think if you're a socialist and you understand what a socialist is, somebody who wants to fight for equality for all, including the removal of a two-tier justice system, who wants to fight for things like universal health care, education, income, and housing, right? Who wants to champion small business ownership, right? Who champions like beyond it's beyond just universal education, who champions education, right? And says like this is the path forward. You know, it's what is the old saying? Teach someone to fish versus teach someone. Never mind. I'm not gonna say it because I don't know what I'm talking about. But the overall concept is like I I think that there needs to be a political party that is the antithesis of this administration. That out of the ashes of this flailing democracy comes a force like the world has never known, where Americans that have been so fucking twisted up in this blue versus red, fucking right versus left, Democrat versus Republican bullshit their whole lives that they never felt like they were a part of. I have never in my whole life, felt like I mattered to either of those parties at any point as a white cis male because I'm just a poor kid. So, hey, what I've realized is it's not left versus right, blue versus red, Democrat versus Republican. It's rich versus poor. It's the haves versus the have nots. It's the haves and the Nazis versus the have nots. I just want to point that out. Even though there's a whole bunch of Nazis that are have nots. Um, I just want to point out, I try to think about under what circumstances would I become a white supremacist? And I think about the lines of decisions I would have had to have made. Here's what I've thought about. when you're versus red versus blue, I think it's gold, the gold standard, right? Because the Egyptian cobra frequently cast in gold. I'm just being true to the fucking core. I did my research. Because I think socialism is the gold standard for everyone moving forward. I think we can build a political party that says and does the right decision, the correct decision every single time because that's what we want. We want to be on the right side of history. We want to I want the Jetsons. I don't want the Flintstones, right? I don't want society sad. I don't want society sad cuz we can't go to Earth 2. I want society to be like how good can we make Earth? So good morning. My son tried to get his passport yesterday, website shut down. Shit. And I'm not talking to you, Crystal. I'm using what you just said to bring up a point. You know what's crazy? Like before the election, I remember people saying, "Go get your passport." That that's easy to disrupt. Is I think like I don't even know the context of how you get a fucking passport. I forget. But I remember before the election reading something about go get your passport now. Huh. Not even 90 days into office. This sucks. I'm sorry. It's crazy though, right? I remember like, whoa, I read an article. Now I have my passport. I got to renew that. Procrastination, that's my fucking middle name. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay? And listen, you got to further filter your water and stop drinking out of plastic bottles. Okay? 165 a piece. Look at this shit. Researchers found a spoon's worth of nanoplastics in human brains. You got to stop drinking. You got to stop buying plastic bottles. You got to filter your fucking water. Like I have a water softener and a filter at the sink. And I still have to take off the filter at the sink and clean out the plastic film. Nanoplastics are in the air we breathe. It's crazy. Oh, this is what I saw. This is this is how society moves forward. Okay. An LGBTQ plus cruise rescued a boat that was adrift that had 11 refugees in it in the Gulf of Mexico. Um, so hey, that's how we move forward is all together. You know, this is rich versus poor. You know, Democrats made the House vote on um, would you say no tax breaks if you made 50 mil or more. Every Republican voted against it. They said, would you say no tax breaks if you make 100 million or more? They said every Republican voted against it. 500 million or more, they all voted against it. $1 billion fucking dollars or more, no tax cuts. Every Republican voted against it. So right now you have a political party that is absolutely not for the people. Half of those votes, though those 47 votes, were not for you and me. Now, I will point out every Democrat voted against it. It sounds like to me the Democrats need a party left of them on everything that can help take seats from shitty Republicans. And again, I've said for a long time, I've said it for a long time. A Democrat would rather debate a socialist than continue to fight against a flailing Republican Party, an out of control political party that is pushed all the way to the right. That is anti-union, anti-workers' rights, anti-LGBTQIA+. Is Elon paying them off with $1 billion each? So you got to eliminate Citizens United. You got to put in term limits. You got to make sure that the Supreme Court justices have an enforceable code of ethics, that they do not get lifetime appointments, that they get term limits. Our party wouldn't do that. Exactly. And you get to live and sleep the rest of your life knowing that you weren't the party of fascists, and you weren't the party that was in power and literally signed billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to Israel so that they could commit a genocide, and only ever spoke out about it when it benefited you, Kamala Harris. That's real talk. That's the Democrats didn't do enough to stop a genocide, free Palestine, didn't end the fight between Russia and Ukraine, didn't move Ukraine into NATO and use assets to eliminate Russia. Why? Because that's not what the military industrial complex wants. That's why we have to fund the U.S. military and use the U.S. military appropriately and stop funding all these other government agencies effectively, like Elon Musk, who gets 90% of government contracts. He's not Tony Stark, he's Lex Luthor. That is the plan. If you read Project 2025 S&M, their plan is to use the 25th Amendment to make J.D. Vance the president. I mean, they're showing Donald Trump's got this worrisome bruise on the back of his hand. He looked like shit yesterday. By the way, looked like shit. Had his first cabinet meeting yesterday. No party has ever given women our rights. Still wasn't recorded in the archives, right? And again, I just want to point out, whenever someone says the states should decide, that is a Nazi thought process. Good to go. You have to make federal law that protects women's rights. So that's why you have to overwhelm their political system. There are only 600 seats of government. I'm going to build the Socialist Party. People are going to naturally come to me and say, hey, I want to join the Socialist Party with the intent to run for public office. Who do I talk to? I'm your fucking man. I'm him. And let me be your fucking barometer. I have a fucking you would be surprised. You would be surprised how good of a judge of character I am. I'm actually really fucking good at that. I could tell who a person is. I'll do the research on them. I'll go look at their social media history. I went to school for that. I'm sure that at some point I called someone a faggot in my past. I think that might be about the height of the worst thing I've ever done in my life is use that term derogatorily. And I'm not even going to go back and delete it. I'm just going to own it and be like, dude, many motherfucking moons ago, I'm guessing, a decade or more, probably 12 to 15 years ago, I may have used faggot as a derogatory slur. That would be the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life, publicly. And it wasn't toward a gay person, which still is derogatory. But I can look myself in the fucking mirror and say it, right? I've said the N word with a hard R in front of a friend. In context, explaining that a white person who is popular said the N word with a hard R on their podcast like it was no big deal. And they were like, no, he didn't. He said the N word with a hard R. And I'm like, no, that word. And he was like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, no, he said that word. So I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that everybody sees me say it. I have used the N word even in context as an adult. I have used faggot as a derogatory slur. I'm trying to think of all the other horrible shit I could have possibly done in my whole life. I grew from there. I stopped doing that shit. I at some point realized I have a lot of gay friends. A lot of friends of mine are people of color. How about I never use that word again twice and be more mindful of the people around me? And here I am in 2025 saying, honestly, if I look back at all the things I've done in my whole life, what do I like regret doing? Like decisions that I made, things that I probably used faggot as a slur and I've said the N word. I haven't done like worse things if we're grading a human. And since I've done those things, I've grown. And I think like one of the sayings that I think about consistently, this has consistently come up in my life. I'm going to quote Confucius. So right after I tell you I used faggot as a slur and have used N-word with a hard R, I'm going to quote Confucius, who said, "Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising each time we fall." And I think about that as like now potentially the founder of a political party. I think about growth and what it means to win and what it means to fail. And I see socialism if you are able to reject your tendency to be a bigot and overcome that, which I have. This is the sort of place you end up. You end up learning what to be critical about, what is important, what is happening. And now it's just in your face. Now it's just in your face. Now the guy that you defended and said like, "Oh, he's not racist, he's just old." Now he's signing executive orders eliminating DEI programs because he thinks it benefits black people. He ran on deporting 14 million people. Oh, by the way, they plan on cutting Medicaid's $880 billion budget. That's the whole budget. They plan on cutting food stamps. So I see all of that as acts of violence. I already told you, capitalism kills 210,000 people every day, and the oligarchy in power wants more blood. More blood for the blood machine. More blood for the blood gods. And I think I could never see myself as a Republican. And what the fuck is a Democrat? What's a Democrat? A coward? Somebody that talks tough and then doesn't show up to the fight? Barack Obama? One party in this country plays by the rules, the other one doesn't believe in the rules. We're going to have to fight about that. Where's that fight? Kamala Harris, I'm not the kind to go out without a fight. Where's the fight? Kamala Harris said fight 18 times in her concession speech. Where's the fight? Because from what I see and hear, it sounds like the only two political candidates that are not Democrats that are elected officials in the United States are AOC, who's a DSA member and then became a member of the Democratic Party after she was elected. And Bernie Sanders is an independent, ran as a Democrat for president. I think we need a workers' party, a grassroots workers' party. The Democratic Party is not that. They are a fundraiser for mediocrity. They are fundraisers for the middle of the road. They are the ones holding you back from prosperity. They are the ones that have kept you from socialism your whole life. They tried to stop Joe Biden from canceling student loan debt. Socialist. By the way, that's socialist as fuck. Jasmine Crockett is a black woman. She's not allowed to be afraid. She represents a whole bunch of young black women that are trying to get to where she is. She doesn't get to be afraid. She's one. Ilhan Omar is another. Rashida Tlaib is another. Yep. Jasmine Crockett. I honestly believe if there is a person that is protected in the United States, meaning not shit is ever happening to that young person, I mean, she's like older now, but Jasmine Crockett is that. Nobody's fucking with Jasmine Crockett. You don't have it like that. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene can get away with a lot of shit, but I can promise you, you don't want this smoke. And I'm pretty sure it's because there's going to be large black men surrounding her that are like ready to throw hands. So again, if there's a person that I'm not worried about that is completely protected, it's Jasmine Crockett, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. They have to be. AOC, Bernie the God. If there is a deity, dead ass. If I've ever met like a god among men, Bernie Sanders. My wife and I, when we first started dating, we went, well, not when we first started dating, we got married I think 2016, 2017, when he came and spoke in Indianapolis. A socialist came here. My wife and I, before, I think this was before we got married, went, and there was like 30,000 people in the circle in Indiana, in the reddest of red states. Bernie Sanders was just in Omaha, Nebraska this past week. 3,400 people had standing room only for him. Yeah. I think if you build it up and you just look at numbers. I'm a numbers person, right? You look at how big are these Democrat and Republican platforms, and you're just aiming for them. We're trying to outgrow them. We think we represent more of the electorate. hmm I think we represent more of the electorate. I think 200 million people in this country are socialists out of 344 million, and would vote for a socialist. Especially when you know, and I'm going to show you one of my favorite songs. I mean, I had to pull it out. I'm a hip hop fan and always have been. So one of the reasons that I want gold as the party color. One of my favorite songs is by Trinidad James called All Gold Everything. This is the remix that has T.I., Young Jeezy, and 2 Chainz in it. Anyway, it's your boy, T. James. Anyway, All Gold Everything. Do is get back. Anyway, it's just like a hardcore rap song. So catch this, eat the rich, and let's get out of here. Well, I mean, one of the things about socialism and the education system is that people were really shitty at teaching it when I was growing up. Because all of the examples they used were like ratty ratty versions of it that didn't work. They talked about, oh, they're under violent attack, and you're like, oh, socialists won power and then succumbed to a coup. Oh, no, violence. Violence is why they failed. So, been on here an hour and a half yet? I'd like to think so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, most people that are socialists don't even know they're socialists. Like, honestly, if you ask someone, do you believe in equality for all? Do you think all humans were created equal? Okay. Do you like unions? Do you think unions are good? They negotiate for wages and benefits on behalf of the workers they represent as part of your organization. So you like unions, you believe in equality for all. Okay. How do you feel about universal health care? What if you didn't have to pay all that money that you pay for healthcare now? Was that like $4,000 a year for you? Cool. What if we could put that back in your pocket? What if you didn't have to take student loans out? So, you could ask someone, what do you think about when Joe Biden canceled all those people's student loans? And of course, they're going to be like, oh, it's great. I would have loved for that to happen to me, or it happened to me. And you're going to get the rare person that's like, I think if you take out a loan, you should have to pay it back. And you're capitalist, idiot. Good to go. So, generally, when you ask someone, like, What if you didn't know what student loans were? What would you have become? What class would you have chosen if there were no financial barrier to success? And you're gonna get doctor, lawyer, astronaut, like really high achieving shit. And it's like, oh, did you do that? No. Why not? Because it was expensive, too high a cost. Oh. What if the elected officials used their electoral power to refuse to give money to state colleges unless they make their tuition free? And start negotiating with these state colleges that these states support and say, hey, we'll reduce your funding if you don't reduce your tuition to zero. And I guarantee you, whichever programs step up first win. And you know why I know? Because I went to Purdue. And Purdue has frozen their tuition for 20 fucking years. And do you know why people go to Purdue? For the value. They get the same 4-year degree that you'd get just about anywhere else. Most diverse college campus in the United States, and their tuition's been frozen for fucking 20 years. So you want to tell me that universal education wouldn't work? What if all you had to do was get in? What if all you had to do was get into school? And obviously, if you decide to move there, you got to pay to live there. That's called room and board, sir and ma'am. The only way you get out of that is to join the military. Good to go. So think about that as you move forward. Like, how hard is it to have a conversation as a socialist where I'm like, do you wish you didn't have to pay all that money for healthcare? Do you wish you didn't have to pay all that money in rent? You know, I know someone that 15 years ago we were paying $850. That's what the rent was on our apartment. And they moved out this past year of that apartment complex that they lived in because they wanted $24.50. I'm going to say it again. I lived in an apartment 15 years ago and had a neighbor, okay, that paid $850 a month. We both did. That was what our rent was. He just moved out of that apartment complex because they tried to renew his lease and make him pay $2,400 a month. Wouldn't you rather have your politicians argue to give no tax breaks to corporations that own multi-unit housing unless they lower their rent? No tax breaks. And the problem is you give billionaires tax breaks and it's like you're encouraging them to do this. Who do you think Grant Cardone is? He's a real estate developer. Like remember the really racist guy at that KKK rally at Madison Square Garden right before the election where it was like all cast in red and Tony Hinchcliffe went up there and acted like an asshole too? Yeah, Grant Cardone, he's a real estate developer. So think about this situation that we're in where people are getting priced into homelessness. People are choosing to live out of their cars. It doesn't have to be this way. And it doesn't have to take a decade to fix. We could fuck this whole system up in 2 years, in 4 years. Who cares about 4? We got 2 to fuck the system up. And the only way I can see doing that is forming the American Socialist Party all the way to the left. Look at that. Kat said my oldest needs 2 roommates to afford an apartment. Dating for me before I met my wife was getting very difficult because of the increasing cost in rent. Think about this. In 2002, I lived in a single unit apartment for 90 days and my rent was $400 a month. That same apartment today is $2,600 a month. Ask me how I know, because it's available. It sits available. Who would fucking rent that for $2,600 a month? I lived above the subway on Chauncey for like a semester. It was great. For $400 a month was can't beat it. 23 fucking years ago. Because we can't have nice things. And I figured it out. I figured out the math on this. You know why things are the way they are? They don't want you to be able to arm yourself. They don't want you to be able to defend yourself. They don't want you to have the money. They need as many people as they can defenseless that they can just take in and force into forced labor. That's what the rich people in this country are doing. They're investing in private prisons. They're fully publicly planning on jailing their opponent and using the Fed to jail their opponent. You know, one of the things that socialists have done as part of their movements is infiltrate the police through their fraternal orders and force justice upon them legally. So, yeah. All right, we've been on here forever. I got to work eventually. Got to feed these dogs. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day. I appreciate y'all listening to me rant. Um, hey, 457 viewers, different people on Clapper this morning. That's awesome. Almost 457 different viewers on Clapper. Yeah. They're basically inviting foreign nationals to come to the United States as the rich people they are and just buy up property. Mhm. Yep. By the way, Kat moved to Oregon at 28, Caravan Coffee, Newberg, Oregon.